Good? Good to go? Okay. The video? Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Atom Dubai. Thank you so much for all showing your faces here this evening. It's an amazing turnout, which shows what a strong community Cosmos has. So first up, I want to hand over to one of our sponsors, Liliana from Nolus. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You killed it.
Smashed it. Keep ranking that.
Let's wait for the video. I promise my presentation won't take too long. It will be the Nolus concept in a nutshell. So, what is Nolus? Nolus is a layer 1 app-specific chain built using the Cosmos SDK that addresses the main inefficiencies in the crypto money markets: over-collateralized lending, high risk of liquidation, and the asset ownership. Nolus allows users to manage all digital assets and purchase, swap, sell their crypto. But most importantly, Nolus introduces the first DeFi lease. What is the concept of this lease? The DeFi lease defines a money market between lenders looking to earn yields on deposited stablecoins and borrowers looking to amplify holdings with more assets than their current equity. So basically, the borrowers lock up a down payment in any fiat stable or digital asset and get 150% above the provided down payment as a loan in stables, and both are used to purchase the desired assets. Really awesome. The down payments, together with the loan, are locked into a DeFi lease position and act as a collateral. And this is the best part. By this, we are reducing the margin call risk by 40% compared to the other blockchain lenders in the space. Why? Yes? Sure. So this is the process of the DeFi lease. The collateral will be released once full repayment is made for the principal and the interest due. At Nolus, ownership remains with the user, so borrowers can utilize the assets within their active lease position in yield strategies whitelisted by the protocol. For example, they can use the liquid staking of their entire amplified lease position and use the rewards of that position to repay the outstanding loan, the interest, the principal, and in this way, they are creating a self-repaying loan. Of course, there are incentives for the lenders as well. I won't dive into details of this one. And the most important part is that Nolus is already fully developed, and the mainnet will be live in 4 days from now, on the 23rd of May. Beta testing of the protocol has been open for the last month, and more than 5K users tested and provided great feedback. We have successfully closed a 2.5 million pre-seed and seed round, backed by a lot of our validators and top VCs. So the NMS token, this is the recent news, will be introduced to the general public via StreamSwap, where the token will undergo its price discovery. The proceeds will be used to bootstrap liquidity on the Osmosis DEX. And the long-term goal of Nodus is to utilize IBC and ICA to become a cross-chain leverage trading margin protocol with, of course, lower margin call risk and actual ownership of the asset. Thanks.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Also, just a quick shout out to our other sponsors. We have Allnodes, Corium, and BitGet. So round of applause for our other sponsors as well. Thank you. And next up, we have a keynote from Cryptocito and coinbureau.
Can you give me the mic? Just can you grab that chair? Yeah. Maybe? And then... It's a nice stage, cozy. Yeah. I hope it's all right. So this is interesting. I'm sitting here right now next to coinbureau, which, as a content creator, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm also very grateful that you made it here today to this Cosmos-specific event. I think Cosmos is a very technical ecosystem, but what it requires more is more things like these, right? Like getting together, educating the community, networking, all these kind of things. So my first question to you is actually, you know, I'm sure you're getting bombarded with projects that want you to cover them and all those kind of things. You've been around for many years, but what is it for you that you like about Cosmos? Because I know you are an undercover atom holder as well. So yeah, what do you like about Cosmos? What does it make you, you know, want to cover it? Why does it stand out in your opinion?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, firstly, for organising this event and for having me along as well. I really appreciate it. And it's great to see so many Cosmos fans here. And that actually leads me to the first reason why Cosmos is such a great project, in my opinion, and that is the community around it. Now, crypto communities, there are a lot of them. They're generally very outspoken, they're very passionate, and they are driving the industry forward to a great extent. And we, you know, in my job, me and the team at coinbureau, we kind of pass up against these communities quite often. You know, they're, like I say, they're very vocal in support of their project. But Cosmos has always been one of my favorite communities in that regard, because I think, in general, these are people who really appreciate the tech of Cosmos. They really appreciate the technology, they really appreciate the mission of the project, they understand the importance of interoperability in crypto. And that community is so, that's why I like the Cosmos community so much, because I don't think that they're at all focused on the price management or any of the other assets in the ecosystem. They care about the technology, they care about the ecosystem itself. So number one is the community. Number two is tech. I'm not going to talk too much about the tech because Michael, you'll get when it comes to that. So we'll dig into that in a minute. But yeah, the tech of Cosmos has been something that when I research a project, I was trying to dig down, and it took me a fair old while to get to grips with it. But the more I looked at it, the more intriguing it became. Obviously, this idea of interoperability, I think it's so central to crypto. I don't think the future is multi-chain. I've been saying that for a long time. So the second reason is the tech. The third reason is I think any crypto project worth its salt have a dedicated YouTube channel, and Cosmos, I think, has one of the best. So there are three reasons why I'm a fan of Cosmos. I didn't give you a very short answer.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's a solid list. I also think also, you know, I'm so deep in Cosmos, and for me sometimes I'm trying to see, because I think we have the same philosophy, as in there's not going to be one chain that wins everything and everything else is going to die. I consider the entire crypto space basically as a giant experiment, right? But I think Cosmos is well positioned to absorb a lot of traffic, which is already happening, kind of, because there's such strong, you know, development talent that's getting in. But yeah, I think you mentioned interoperability. I know also in your channel you cover a lot, like what are some of the trends that you see, where you see crypto evolving over the next years. You also do a lot of macro content. So how much of an importance do you think interoperability as a technology, but also as a narrative, plays, and like where do you see right now in the crypto space? Yeah, the top contenders.
Yeah. So in terms of, you know, we're at this funny point in crypto at the moment. Obviously, we're in the depths of a bear market. Market conditions are very tough, and I still don't think we've reached the peak of that. So I think there is still going to be lots of very good projects that, for one reason or another, just don't make it through, which is sad because it's tough to see. And you know, we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that in projects. Cardano, for instance, we saw Cardano, which I think is a very promising project. And I think that's one of the reasons why interoperability is so important, because I think you need to build this ecosystem. Projects are not only leveraging technology in terms of Cosmos, obviously, engineering security, but also supporting each other. And I think it's important to build an ecosystem like that. It's important, I think, for projects not to be seen as rivals, but all to be pulling in the same direction with the same aim of creating this ecosystem of value. And I think that's something Cosmos does really well. So, and again, I think that's why interoperability is going to play. Well, it's one of the niches that I talked about in the recent video. We're talking about projects that I or niches that are going to drive the next bull market, and interoperability is one. I don't think this idea of sort of chains going it alone, I don't think there's much scope for that.
Do you have any favorite project in Cosmos? I mean, I know that you're. I think you also mentioned that publicly in your videos that you're over Atom. But is there any other project in Cosmos that you're following, or any category that you think define Cosmos, sounds interesting, or any sort of idea?
Well, I was watching one of your videos just yesterday, and I mean, Noble was one that stood out to me, and obviously this idea, Noble is the one that's going to be bringing USDC.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. It's so important to bring liquidity into the ecosystem. So Noble is one that I'm watching closely, and of course we've got Neutron as well. So Neutron is, if I remember rightly, the first layer one to actually leverage chains. Yeah. So it's going to be a really important benchmark of, you know, how that works out, where that project goes, what sort of development we see with that, and how well security works out for it. And I'd say as well, I think Osmosis is a really promising project. It's obviously got that kind of first mover advantage. I think Dex is on Cosmos. I think I've got a big role to play in crypto. And yes, Osmosis is another one I'm watching.
I think that's a very strong list. And I also think this feature that you mentioned, shared security, that just went live on the Cosmos Hub, is going to bring, especially Atom, into this new era from just being one of the many Cosmos chains to actually have a strong positioning. And then also this new narrative, I don't know if you saw that, but this Atom economic zone, did you hear about that? Yeah. So that's basically this new era where Atom evolves. But yeah, you know, I mean, we're now in Atom Dubai, and I look around, there's many projects, right? There's data chain. They're building IBC on Ethereum, right? Compatibility with that. Composable is also working on that. Polymer, like different projects with persistence, Dexter, right? This is a whole ecosystem in itself. We just heard a presentation from Biljana on Novus, DeFi leases, minute coming up. Coreum, I don't know if they arrived in the meantime. They were also supposed to give a quick keynote, but they came from the Ripple community. So what I personally also love is when projects from other ecosystems build Cosmos chains and also bring IBC into those ecosystems, right? Because in the end of the day, the flagship USP for Cosmos, that was a nice gin tonic that went down. But the USP of Cosmos is obviously IBC, right? So yeah, I think on that side, Cosmos is leading the crypto market. Competition is boiling up, but I think still there's a lot that Cosmos is ahead of. When it comes to shared security, as you said, I think now it's starting to come, but there's still a lot that Cosmos needs to do. So maybe from a critical perspective, what would you say? Because you're not as deep in Cosmos as I am, right? Like I'm covering Cosmos 24/7. I dream about Cosmos. I wake up. It's the first thing I do. Cosmoverse, right? We're at an event. Also, my co-founder of Cryptocito is here, so we do validators. But from somebody that's not as deep as I am, and that's more also plugged into different communities, what would you say? Why is Atom not in the top 5 or top 10 yet? Like, why doesn't it have this, very strong market cap narrative marketing? Like, what do you think we could do better? Maybe ask around like that.
That's a very good question. And if I'm thinking back to the last time I reviewed Cosmos on the channel, and I think one of the things that I raised there, and it's actually one of the things that I admire about the project is that actually Cosmos in general, I get the feeling that the devs there, they haven't been at all focused on things like getting Atom listed on exchanges. It doesn't seem to be a huge priority for them in the past. And I must say I admire that because I got the feeling I know for a fact that a lot of crypto projects, the huge proportion of their budget goes on marketing. And I don't think that happens with Cosmos, and I don't think that happens with a lot of the big projects in the Cosmos ecosystem either. However, there is a kind of reality of it. We're in a very competitive environment, and let's face it, Cosmos has competition for the likes of Polkadot, which I'd be interested to get. I wanted to ask you something about your thoughts on Polkadot and that competition, but we'll get to that. So, I think Cosmos community and the dev teams working within the ecosystem, I think they need to be a bit more on the front foot when it comes to pushing these projects out and giving the reasons why it's so much better to develop in this ecosystem and to be trying to attract more projects. I did it recently. I'm not sure. I can't say the actual projects themselves, but I've heard of 2 projects that are recently decided to migrate to Cosmos. Let's call it a popular L1 that is apparently very difficult to develop on. Now, when this is made public, Cosmos needs to make a really, really big deal about this sort of thing. I get the impression that how well if we build it or this is a competitive space and you need to shout loud to get yourself heard. So I think that's the start. They need to, projects and Cosmos themselves need to be much more vocal about putting themselves out there and about why Cosmos is such a great place to build. What do you think, Michael? What do you think the ecosystem is like in that regard?
Can you flip that in? Yeah. I think honestly that's a very solid point because Cosmos is a very specific ecosystem because there is no one foundation that runs everything, which has trade-offs, right? If you look at, for example, you mentioned Polkadot, right? There's Parity Technologies, which is the core development company. They dictate your roadmap. They dictate, the marketing strategy. They have a huge war chest, obviously funding to spend, to put into these things. They do the largest conference of the ecosystem, right? Polkadot Decoded. In Cosmos, it's more diluted, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the downside to not have this core organization that does the BD also, right? Avalanche, for example, they killed it with BD, right? Onboarding Web2 TradFi onto their ecosystem. In Cosmos, I mean, if you want to talk to somebody about Atom, like who do you talk to?
Yeah.
I bet nobody even knows who the founders are. Like it's a very diluted ecosystem, but I think that's at the same time also a feature and a strength because you have so many different parties and teams and development arms that still in the end of the day somehow it works. I don't know how, but somehow it works, you know. So I think, like to your point also, a lot of these teams, however, they need to be a little bit more on the field. You know, they need to be more out there on also other ecosystems. But at the same time, we also see, you know, projects like Coreum that came from the Ripple community. They just launched their L1 in Cosmos, DYDX, first on Ethereum, then on Starkware. Now they're launching their L1 around the time when Cosmoverse happens, which is very exciting. MakerDAO, I saw they just published a post, some like 5 steps to the end game or whatever. And their final step is to launch a chain that sounds a lot like Cosmos. So you see a lot of this interest from OGs in the space, OG teams and projects that explore it. So you have this organic natural growth, but I think we could amplify that and we could you know, grow faster if there was more also core aligned marketing pushes and all those kind of things, right? Because like I said, right, like nobody, I think, ever paid for Atom getting listed anywhere. That's like this philosophy in Cosmos. But me as a content creator, conference organizer, event organizer, we need a lot more than, you know, like this. We need a lot more events, a lot more content. Content is really king in this time, especially in crypto. So yeah. That's my.
You're right.
Anything to add to that?
I don't think so. It's a tricky one because I guess the other side of that coin, when you're talking about there being, you know, it's hard to know who's behind Cosmos. Obviously, that has benefits when people like the SEC come knocking, and you know, this is something I know that Polkadot has been very, very concerned with over the past year or so. And I think that's been very much the focus of Gavin Wood's efforts, is decentralization, is to make sure that Polkadot is as insulated against securities laws as possible. Now, you could argue, I guess, that Cosmos is perhaps way ahead of them on that, purely because of this setup. Who you go after? But again, it's difficult because there needs to be a middle ground where there's also someone who can go into bat for the project, as we say. So, yeah, I think Cosmos, like so many other projects, is facing a lot of headwinds. But I think a project, an ecosystem with this level of technology and also this level of passion as well should be well placed, even though I think we've still got difficult months ahead of us as an industry. But I wanted to ask you, Michael, as well. Are there any other, you know, what else excites in terms of other projects? What else are you watching in the ecosystem?
I will definitely get roasted for this because I will not mention some projects and then later they will tell me, oh, you didn't mention that. I would rather put it like this. If you're new to Cosmos, go on mapofzones.com. You will see all 59 IBC connected chains. You'll see how much IBC volumes they have, how many active users. Click on them, go on their website, use their apps, see if you like them, become part of the community. I think the ones you mentioned, you know, obviously my coverage is mostly around Atom. I still believe it's the flagship chain in Cosmos. Also a big fan of Osmosis. Covered that since the early days. But yeah, you know, over the past 2 years when I discovered Cosmos, I pretty much talked to everybody in the, you know, in the system. So it would be hard for me to nail it down. I do think one category in Cosmos has not gained any traction yet and any publicity, which is NFTs in Cosmos.
Yeah.
And I think there's very interesting things going on now with, IDC enabled token standards for NFTs that you can basically have the seamless interoperability. So Stargaze is one of the big ones there. I think they also should get more love out there because they're really solid. But yeah, I think overall, Cosmos needs more like that, more community engagement, contributions. But yeah, I think that's a good like go on mapofzones.com, find your favorite chains, and just become part of the ecosystem. That's probably the best way to go. But yeah, I think we're gonna have food in around 10 or 15 minutes. But before we eat, I wanted to ask you also a little bit about Dubai.
Sure.
Because you moved here, I think, almost a year ago now, 7, 8 months. Why Dubai? How has it been for you? And what's your game plan? Like, do you plan on staying here now, or is that something you can see yourself for like long term, or what's the plan?
Yeah, why Dubai? So we talked about this with the team for quite a while because the coinbureau team has actually been pretty decentralized for a long time now. We've had a lot of people working remotely, and some of our top guys decided to base themselves out here about a couple of years ago now. And they were talking about it a lot. And I was kind of happy keeping the production side of things in the UK. That worked for me. We were in London. I was born in London. I've lived in London all my life. I had until August last year. But we became more and more aware that there didn't seem to be the promise for crypto in the UK. Now I know Rishi Sunak, the new Prime Minister, has made a lot of noises about making the UK a crypto hub, and there has been progress on that in the last few months since he left, funny enough. I'm still not convinced that that is going to be seen through. So we wanted to come to where more of the crypto community is. Dubai was kind of top of that list. We wanted to come to somewhere where we were going to be able to kind of explore the world a little bit more as well. One of the things I would really like to do is to spend more time going to events like this, to kind of get myself out around the world, check out the Far East, where I think there's so much growth happening for the industry. So we wanted to base ourselves somewhere where it was going to be easy to kind of get around. And it's just a more welcoming environment for a crypto company. Now, I say we're a crypto company. Really, coinbureau is a media company. We talk about crypto, sure, but we don't have, to issue a token. We don't have a blockchain or anything like that. We're just a media company that's focused on crypto and the wider financial world. And yet, it was really difficult for it. It was really hard for us to get things like banking services from the UK because they knew we were into crypto. It's like, well, yeah, sure, we talk about crypto, but we don't issue a token. And we got the impression that it was not a welcoming environment for crypto anymore. So we felt that the best way to show our opinion of that was to vote with our feet, which is what we did. And fortunately, we are part of a much greater exodus from other places. So, I mean, Michael, what brought you here? Was it a kind of similar thing? Or you're much more well-traveled than I am.
Yeah, I think obviously, they make it easy here for crypto people to, to set up also your legal base here. So I think that was a big thing for me. But also like you, I mean, before here, I lived in Portugal for 2 years. And I mean, yeah, Dubai is just something completely different, obviously, than anything in Europe. But I'm a marina maxi, to be honest. So I love, being close to the water, being close to the beach. And yeah, just the vibes here. I also think, this may be a hot take, but in my opinion, my personal opinion, Dubai has the best food in the world.
Okay.
Best food in the world. You get the best sushi here, you get the best pizza, the best pasta, you get everything. Indian food, anything. So for the variety of food, Dubai is the place. So yeah, I think also networking wise, this is the second time we do Atom Dubai. Last time it was just 80 people. Now we're much more than that.
Yeah.
We have a little stage here. We have you here. So yeah, we also want to keep growing that. You know, there's always somebody flying through. There's always something going on here. And yeah, I think Dubai is the place to be right now, to be honest. It's also very safe. I think people also underappreciate the safety aspects here. Like you literally don't have to worry here about anything. So that's also a big one. But yeah, before we start serving food, maybe one last topic: bear market therapy. So the last 2 years in crypto have been really, really bad. Everybody lost money. I don't even know who's going to pay for this tonight. But we all lost money. We're all broke. We can't trust anybody. FTX rugged us. Terra rugged us. Everyone's a bad actor. Is there still hope? How do we get through this? And what do you recommend people now in this time? Is it time to get out of the market, to maybe go back to work in the banking industry? Or?
Well, that would make headlines for all the wrong reasons if I said yes, wouldn't it?
Banker.
Yeah, we're switching focus. No, it has been a tough year for crypto, but I think the first thing to remember is that bear markets are a necessary part of the cycle. It's an opportunity for the industry to flush out the bad projects, the bad actors, and unfortunately, that is a really, really painful process. But you've kind of got to go through the fire in order to get to the light on the other side. So the benefits of a bear market is that projects are still building, things are being funded, but the money just isn't being thrown around as it gets in a bull market. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you can look at a project getting funding now, you can look at a project that's building and getting interest and gaining traction, and you can be much more confident that that is a legit project, that has the fundamentals in place, the teams behind it. So I think, projects like some of the ones that are sponsoring this today, building at a time like this, if you can make it through these times, then that's really positive. So I think it's a good time from an industry, someone who's watching the industry, you think this is a good time to spot those promising projects of tomorrow, because I really think that the top 10, the top 20 projects by market cap will look very, very different in a year, 2 years' time. And perhaps some of those projects are only just starting to come out now. So there is hope. There are still people moving into the industry. I've spoken to a couple of people here tonight who have said that they've come to crypto from other industries. I know that's happening across the board. I hear that myself. I hear it anecdotally. So it is still growing, just in a much more controlled and less crazy way, which I think is a good thing. In terms of dealing with it from a personal point of view, yeah, it's tough. I think you need to remember that at the end of the day, or come the weekend, it's important to just step away from crypto. I really admire how passionate people are about this industry and how much they want to learn, how much time they're prepared to spend on it. Sometimes, guys, you've just got to close the screen, go outside, touch grass, and forget all about it, because I can guarantee you it'll still be there on Monday morning. So don't forget the important things in life as well. Family, friends, free time, leisure, because crypto can manage without you for a few hours. It can manage without all of us for a few hours, I think. And what about you, Michael? How do you cope with bear market times?
Yeah, I think very, very similar. Like when I started my crypto journey, I started before the 2017 bull run, but then I really doubled down in 2018 and 19. I think that was the best decision, right? Like, because that's where you meet the people that are genuinely into this movement, right? And I mean, I feel like still this time compared to the last bear market, the tide is much higher. So we still have a lot of people that just joined or that are in it for quick money, and I think that's also totally fair. But just I would recommend go to events in your town, connect with people, and like he's saying, connect with projects that are building right now. Anybody that's building right now is like the value just keeps getting better, but the perceived value, the price, right, goes down. So at some point, this has to readjust, right? And if you see projects now being abandoned, there's no code activity, people don't do anything anymore, it's maybe the time to really shuffle your portfolio to think about, okay, are these guys still active or not? So yeah, it's just now is the time to really be on top of the things, go to all of the events. And speaking of events, maybe we can close it like that. You also have your event coming up very soon. So tell us about that.
Thanks, Michael. That was a seamless segue into our event. Yes, my colleague Macy has been working hard these past months on organising the second coinbureau conference, which is taking place on the 10th of June, not long now, in London, my hometown. So yes, 10th of June at the De Vere Grand Connaught in central London. It's an amazing venue, and it's going to be an amazing event as well. We've got some great speakers and sponsors, and again, it's going to be an opportunity a bit like this to meet other people in the space, to network, to make friends, to again get out from behind the screen and kind of see crypto in 3D. So I think live.coinbureau.com, I think there may be some tickets left. But yes, I hope you can make it. We're also going to be broadcasting live, aren't we? It'll be live as well, so you can watch it too. So yeah, it's going to be a great event, and all that remains for me to say is, Michael, thank you for organising this. Thank you for having me along, and yeah, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Whether there was not it yet. I wanted to give one last chance. Maybe Arbitage, is there any question? Because we're also streaming this live right now. There must be millions of people watching. So is there any question, or also from the audience? If you have any questions? Otherwise, I think there's also plenty of networking opportunities. We're going to be around. Arbitage, do we have anything? The question is if we see more chains coming to Cosmos from other ecosystems. Or, yeah, I think we touched upon this earlier a little bit. I mean, DYDX is a big one. Yeah. And I also think, honestly, like when the DYDX chain goes live, it's going to set the blueprint for other Ethereum DeFi powerhouses, right? They observe that closely. And for them, it's a big loss, right? So I think I mentioned MakerDAO. This is just rumored. I mean, I read the post. I think Sunny also is one of the core developers in Cosmos. He made a post like, if it looks like a duck. So it might be the next one. And yeah, I think there's so many chains that are lined up to launch. Celestia is going to be a big one. Saga, which is going to be the gaming hub in Cosmos. So many. Say Network, about to launch. Say, I think that's also a nice one. There also this category like Injective. Last time I got roasted for not mentioning Injective. So Injective, they're actually right now also really up there. Very, very nice Cosmos chain. But yeah, I think it's getting cozy in Cosmos. But in the end of the day, I also think there's so much room for many chains to coexist, right? It's not a winner takes it all. That counts for crypto as a whole, but also Cosmos as an ecosystem. So yeah, I think we can maybe leave it here. Would be nice to, when we do this again, maybe after the summer, after all the events, also after Cosmoverse, which is in October 2nd to 4th in Istanbul, Turkey. There's going to be this times 1,000. So we're going to have 2,000 people there actually, 3 days, hackathon, a lot of side events, DYDX launch party, and all this kind of things. So customers, tickets are coming soon, it's not out yet. But yeah, thank you so much, Guy, also coinbureau team, all our sponsors, Nodos, Korean, all nodes. I don't know if they arrived in the meantime, and BitGet. So thank you guys for sponsoring. And yeah, now I think it's time to eat. Cheers.
That was great, man.
That was cool, yeah.
Yeah,
It was nice.
really good stuff. I forgot to ask you about. I should have passed it back to you and asked about Cosmoverse.
Yeah, no.
So
I mean,
this whole event is around the Road to Customers campaign. So yeah, I think that's good enough. Yeah, no, I think it was chill. I should do